What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Invest With Nikkei podcast. I am super excited today. I have an incredible guest here. He is on the Savvy team. He is Lance Wolfe. Give it up. Say hello to everyone, Lance.
Hey everyone, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on here, Nikki.
Yeah. Tell them who you are, what you do, what you're about.
I'm an investor. I'm a co-host. Me and my wife both did I should say now, healthcare. I did radiation oncology for 22 years. COVID hit, and we started like most everybody else in the short-term rental business. We bought a house up in the mountains so that people could escape Atlanta when there was, precautions and everything with COVID. Didn't have a clue what we were doing, but we made a house that we'd want to stay at, and we were highly successful with it. And so we end up selling it and purchasing a bigger house, and we're even more successful with that. Then just talking with friends who wanting to do this as well, and getting in with them, telling them where to buy, what to do, and then managing some of their properties. So we have a co-host business as well. Well, we're up to 8 properties from where I am here in the Treasure Coast of Florida all the way up to Western North Carolina. And it was so much that I had to step away from healthcare. I couldn't focus on the boutique feel, personal, engagement with my guests while I'm, working, doing healthcare, treating cancer patients and everything. So, bought a house with Tyler Kuhn, who's, savvy, head boss man, and, just started kind of talking about my market. Cause I mean, honestly, a year ago, I wasn't even looking in the space in Treasure Coast here of Florida. I was in Western North Carolina and kind of chasing where everybody else is going. And we just started kind of talking, at one of the Build Short Term Rental Wealth meetings. And we just dove into my market. And he's just like, we got to get you on board here because I see so much potential in this area. He's like, it reminds me of Asheville before I entered there. And it's
Mm,
one like, yeah, we had some nice homes, but there wasn't a single home making or doing more than $400 a night. And now
yeah.
they're $2,500 a night. My house up there is $1,500 a night, and it's just so much similar. Tons of tourism, but just lack of amazing homes that really starts
Yeah.
driving the ADR up. And then others join for competition. Here's your competition. Everyone's ADRs go up. And then here comes more tourism thing. Here comes more commercial stuff, and really build up communities to be a really hot short-term rental area. So
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, that's very similar to what I'm doing in my market up in St. Augustine. Massive tourism demand, but it's such an old school vacation rental area where people have vacationed for forever that there wasn't really that competition. And so same thing, I love that Tyler shares his story about, how they literally created their own demand.
mhm.
And that's what you're doing in your market. So tell everyone where your market's at, where your market is at, and like how do you serve them and what do you find that really works in that market? Like if someone was like, hey, I want to dominate in this market, what do you see them doing? What would you recommend?
In my market, still a couple of amenities. It's one of the last places in Florida that you can look at where if you had a hot tub and a cold plunge and some wallpapers, you're going to be in the top 10%. Now, not to say that to do the savvy thing and come in with 100K plus design, you'll be the top 1% like at launch day. And so I'm in a giant market. I go from Jupiter, Florida, which is the West Palm Beach area, and then all the way up to Cocoa Beach, kind of where your area sort of ends. And it's just vastly different.
Yeah.
So starting in the south in Jupiter, it's, one of the most sought after places to live in Florida, very expensive homes, very high end retail and restaurant and the beaches and the water, and just it's high ADRs, high entry point. As soon as you
Mm,
get north of Jupiter, for 5, 6, 7 communities, like Hobe Sound, Jensen Beach, Stewart, Fort Pierce, Vero. You roll up, and it's these cute, quiet, non-commercialized towns where you can enter not on the beach because the beach is this narrow. You're either riverfront or you're oceanfront, and the numbers don't work. It's too expensive of
Mm,
houses.
right.
So, but all these towns are built around a causeway to get you over to the beach. So
Mm,
you can enter at a $400,000 price range and be successful because you can walk to the cool downtown with no commercialized shopping. It's all mom and pop places. And then you could just a 3-minute ride over the causeway to get to all the nicest beaches that aren't crowded. You don't
yeah.
have to pay to park.
Right.
you
Right.
know, and then you hit the traditional Florida beach markets once you go north of that to Melbourne, Cocoa
Mm,
areas, to where the island, Hutchinson Island, that goes up the East Coast, kind of gets wider, and you have a whole bunch of single family home communities. You can still walk to the beach, you can still walk to the river, but you're not ocean or beachfront to where it's $3 million. You can enter at 650 and still be able to
yeah.
walk to the beach and see Coco and the rocket launches and all that fun stuff that area has to offer. So
Yeah, and it's like
yeah,
almost like as Florida gets wider and you have more land mass, the prices start to come down. Where it's really thin and skinny, like thinking like all the way down to the Keys, it gets more expensive, right? Because you're all the properties are on the water. So
yeah, and you look at a place like that, it's like this house is making 600,000 a year, and you're like, oh, that sounds good. It's like, oh wait, it's $6 million. Yeah, that doesn't
right,
work.
that works for some people, but
Sure. And that's one of
for
my first questions when I have a call is, what do you want? Like, if you're wanting a lifestyle asset, let's go to Jupiter.
right.
If you want an easy intro, with least competition, you're in the middle of my market. If you want the
Why is
tourism,
Jupiter so in demand? Just curious.
why is it in demand?
Why
Well,
is
it's
Jupiter?
Jupiter Island. You got the whole Tiger Woods crowd.
Mm,
I can't think of his name, the country singer.
like Morgan Wallen? Is that who it is? No,
No, Alan Jackson.
Alan Jackson.
So there's the houses on Jupiter Island are $20+ million. You
I
know,
see.
and so it's a very very high end community that is Jupiter, and the golfing and just everything is it drives
Mm,
the prices up a lot, that area. So,
gotcha.
but you're just now getting out of West Palm, which, like anything south of West Palm, I call Miami, because it's
Right.
all this huge city, and then you finally hit the cool, quiet fishing village of Jupiter, but all the money's coming up south because it goes so much further. But now, 20 years later, it's the same prices as it is down south. So,
Yeah, and I found that a lot, like even up into the Northeast Florida area where I'm at, like all these people from South Florida are migrating up there.
yep,
And they're dropping, cash on $4 or $5 million listings because down there it's 20 million,
right.
and it's like all this, it's crazy, but the migration that's kind of happened, you've got people leaving New York, leaving California for many different reasons, taxes, regulations, politics, all the
Hmm.
things, coming to Florida, no income tax. And most of those really wealthy are coming to South Florida. So it's like now it seems like the people that are been in South Florida are like migrating up this way because now, it's more affordable and, they're not that they're being pushed out, but I'm sure that like that migration of people coming in is like some people are like, it's getting too busy or it's getting too much or whatever. We can go get more for our money somewhere else. And also we have really good schools, I think up this way too. So it's interesting to kind of see how it's like the northern people are moving down to the south and then the southern Florida people are like moving up. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I have friends here that started like in Homestead, and then they moved to Pembroke Pines, and then they moved
Hmm.
to Delray Beach, and then they moved to Jupiter, and now they're in Stewart, and now they're probably going to move to Sebastian because they bought a house for 100 grand 30 years ago, and they sold it for 500, and then they bought a
Right.
$250,000 one here, and they sold it for 750, and they're
Right.
just, they're just moving up the coast and making tons of money every time they sell their house because
That's
everyone.
awesome.
And with vacation rentals too, I don't know how it is for you in St. Augustine, but we have so many just they don't fly in, they drive in. They're coming up from Miami.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
just the first quiet part of the beaches of Florida is my area. So it's people to get out of the city to go to where they don't have to pay. They don't have to get their valet, just to go eat at a restaurant. You can park anywhere. There's local events going on. And it's just since COVID, people love this. And that's
Yeah.
the huge opportunity that I see in my market here
Yeah.
is it's still the quiet
And
part of Florida.
can you go back to what is that first town that people go to from Miami? You said my area.
So Jupiter.
Jupiter. Okay, gotcha.
Jupiter's kind of
Gotcha.
like, but it's the high end for sure. And
Yeah.
then you start getting hit with like the smaller
Like the
uh
Hutchinson, the Hobie Island, those
Hobe Sound.
those
Yep.
areas. Yeah, Hobie Sound.
Yep. The
Gotcha. Okay.
coastal beach, like Stewart, where I live here, it's top 10, and I think 7 of the last 10 years it's been number 1 for the best small town US coast city in the
That's
country.
great. Yeah.
So people see that, and they come here.
Right. So if you had 200K to spend, where would you buy and what would you buy?
Um, Depends on what you want and
You,
what.
if
Oh,
it
me?
was you, what would you buy in your area, in your market? What would you scoop up?
I would probably move up to Melbourne, Cocoa area.
Hmm.
It's more consistent, and not to say that down here isn't, but for example, it's like, hey, come to Stewart. Have you ever heard of Stewart, Florida?
I have, but I've lived in Florida my whole life.
Right,
So,
but most people haven't. So it's
right.
that tried and true market where the entry point's a little higher, or come down here and like start the market. So I would probably look in Melbourne to Cocoa in a 3 or 4 bedroom home, walking distance to the beach is where I would go. And that's just because it's tried and true. There's tons of tourism. Space tourism up there is, no pun intended, exploding. I mean, it was
It's like a
5:20.
rocket ship.
Yeah. Well, I was up there last weekend for lunch, and it's 5:10 in the morning, and there's 300 people just standing at the beach watching the launch. And this was
Yeah.
down in Melbourne. The Cocoa Beach, like 20 minutes north, is way, way more crowded.
Packed.
And there's a launch every 6 days. So if you come and stay for a week, your chances of seeing a rocket launch are extremely high.
Yeah. And let's talk about, so we're talking about space. I want
Mm-hmm.
to dive in. Give us all the juicy tips about what's happening with the development around the space
Yeah.
stuff.
So besides the launches going off, you have Kennedy Space Center, which is millions of viewers a year already. But Blue Origin is Blue Origin, and which is Bezos, right? His company. They're building an 800,000 square foot manufacturing facility up there, and they've linked up with local property managers and said, hey, we need all of your short-term rentals, like to house our workers. How many of your owners will allow us to convert these to long-term rentals until this is built? And they're going to pay regular short-term rental ADRs, but these places are going to be booked up for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
Yeah. Because it's going to take a
So
while to build. That's a massive project. I mean, that's going to take years.
yeah, but if you lose 30% of the short-term rentals up there, that's a huge opportunity for someone coming in now.
Yeah. They need
And
more supply for the
yeah,
tourist.
they need more supply for sure. They don't even have enough
Hmm.
hotels up there to doing that. That's why they reached out to the short-term rental world,
Yeah.
trying to get their
I
people
actually
in there.
I was at the Information Management Short-Term Rental Conference, and I talked to one of the property managers there who and he was like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're literally all booked up by Blue Origin for 6 months or more.
Yeah,
And it's crazy, and I think that's one thing that's not talked about enough in the short-term rental world, and is like there's trends, and when there's development and there's things happening, you have to know what's going on in these markets and in these sub markets. You got to know the underlying projects, what the government's doing, what the city's doing, what are the developments, like who's doing commercial developments, who's investing, what things are being built, what things are being planned, what things are going to desk for approval. You need to know that stuff, because that's how you catch a wave, right? And for me, when that my head goes, oh wow, I should probably look at buying something down there with Lance, because I know for the next few years I'm going to have crazy good income, because I'm going to be booked solid, because Blue Origin's going to be renting my place and they're going to take good care of it. They're
Yeah.
going to pay top dollar, right?
Yep.
So that's something that now, after that's done, you still have people think, well, yeah, well, that's only the next couple of years while it's being built. No, because now you have a massive, development that people have to work. They have to move there. They have to, transition. They're going to need short-term housing, plus all the tourism that goes along with a growing area. So that's kind of where my mind goes. I think it's an incredible time for people to get into that right now. So I know you have deals lined up. If you guys are not signed up for Deal Drop or the Savvy STR Agents daily newsletter, we put deals on there, and Lance is literally so consistent with pushing out his daily deals that he handpicks for investors that are looking for short-term rentals. So if you guys aren't signed up for that, go look up Instagram Deal Drop, or go to Savvy Agents, savvyagents.com, and you can go and sign up for our newsletter and start getting those VIP deals that are handpicked sent to you. And yeah, so moving on. All right, Lance. So let's talk about, like, how do you work? Let's say someone was like, hey, Lance, I want to start investing. Can you walk me through the process of what it would look like to go and hire you? Let's say that I'm like, hey, Lance, I want to try to find something in that Blue Origin area, like Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area. What would it look like for me as a client to work with you?
Like the full steps of
Yeah.
start to finish. Okay.
Yes.
So, well, I mean, if you're already interested in that area, then I don't have to ask you if it's a lifestyle asset or what you want to do. So we're out of Jupiter
Investment.
going up there.
Yes.
And so, yeah, then it's going to be your entry point. Then, we always stress that, the money you need is 50-50, 50 for down payment, 50 for design.
Yep.
And again, like I said at the beginning of this, you can do fairly minimum getting in there to do successful, but that's not the way I like to run things. I want to be in the top 5%. So my suggestion is going to be for you to put that much into it. But, I would really like Cocoa Beach area. And again, this is, like you said, this is why you need to work with someone like me who knows the market, because there's just little pockets in regulation areas here in Florida that sometimes they don't allow short-term rentals. So which I like regulations, honestly, because then it's not the wild west. And then you can find these cool little pockets like Indian Harbor Beach, for 5 miles above it and 5 miles south of it, outlawed. You cannot have a short-term rental except for this, 25 blocks. So they do really well because you can't go, or you can't have one anywhere else. So then it's going to be, you need a pool, you need walking distance to the beach. And then the further you go north, the better the rocket launches are. So that's generally what I do every morning when I'm, from 6 to 8 a.m. or so, when I'm sitting down looking at the MLS and what's new, what rockets are so popular up there. I'm going to find a house that has either the backyard or a front deck, off the master suite upstairs, that you can walk outside and watch the launch and not, have to walk 3 blocks to see it. So that's the biggest thing that I'm going to provide to you with these properties is I've already done the research.
It's like you know exactly where to buy. And then walk me through. So like, let's say we found the property, I know you're helping with underwriting and design. Like, can you talk about that whole side of the deal?
Yeah. So if you have some interest in a property, we're going to do a couple of performas for you. One's called B&B Calc. It's let's call it interactive revenue projector. You can kind of slide bars, and what you can kind of create a bottom line of, what's my break even point? Like this thing needs to make $75,000 a year to break even. Oh, and we're projecting it's going to make 140. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then if we want to move forward, then we actually do the full performa with every data point you could ever think of: cleaning, electrical, insurance, pest control. Give you, this is if you're 65% book, 75% book, and get you more of a data driven performa on what something's going to do. And then I'm going to provide comps, and comps I know, comps I've actually got financials on. Maybe it already has financials, and really dig in and show what this property can do. And then, but then you also have to have an open mind with this market. Is, if you put an amazing design in, the sky's the limit on your revenue, because I might not have a comp of a $200,000 design because no one's doing it.
Yet. Right,
So
yet.
it's gonna, like, this one's doing 120. Just an example, you're gonna do 150 if you do
Yeah.
this. Maybe 200, maybe 275. Like, come be the comp, because you can still do that in this area.
Yeah, I know you have some projects currently in renovation and setup, which is cool because we'll have some comps to feature soon. But I love that. It's like, and I think what's cool is we've really proven in other markets across the country that when you bring top tier design, you can typically outperform the comps by 30 to 60%.
Yep.
So that is true in every single market we've ever gone into. If you bring a property that stands out, that has great amenities, that has great design, and you pair that with good operations, you're managing the property well, you're taking care of your guests, you're having good cleaners, good, maintenance, care of the home, you're attentive, you run the business well, because remember, this is like running a business. Then you pair those things together and you outperform all the comps like crazy. And, like you said, you don't have to necessarily be a 1% top performing property. Some people are okay with being in the top 20%, right? But the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And for us, I know for you and I, our mindset is like, how can we make this the best possible property in the market? That's a lens we're always looking through.
Yeah. Yeah. And like these properties, it's a $1.3 million home. Um, it did just about 200 grand a year in revenue, and it was turnkey. And yet we probably put 30 grand into them because they had 22 plates for 22 people, 22 forks, knives, cups. It was the absolute bare minimum, one
Right.
pillow per guest, just, insane on. If I had 22 people sleeping in this house and there's only one plate per person, I would flip out and it would be a horrible review,
Yeah.
So
Well, just because your experience, it's like you just don't have enough to really enjoy with that big of a group. You need to
right.
have backups of everything:
Yeah. It's like,
pillows, blankets, plates.
yeah, it's like, hey, we have a dishwasher. Cool. We're never going to use it because we don't have time. We need these plates again before that's done.
Right? Yeah, you literally gotta eat and wash at the same time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's
Put the kids to
awesome.
work.
That's great. Well, tell the audience how they can find you, Lance.
Yeah, you can find me on just savvy.realty. You can find my name and phone number and book a call with me right there. Instagram is Lance Wolfe STR, or just Lance Wolfe on Facebook. And then my Savvy link is lance.wolfe@savvy.realty.
Yes, awesome. Well, I learned a lot. I definitely want to scope out that market a little bit more with you and see what other deals. I know we've been working on some deals lately, trying to get some hotels and some short-term rentals and things rolling, but definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into that market and see what we can come up with. I know you're doing that every single day, so definitely want to pick your brain more. And thank you so much for your time, and I'm excited to share this with everyone. You guys
Awesome.
have an incredible day. Thanks for listening in. See you next time.
Thank you.